Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. Gujarat, Karnataka and Meghalaya have emerged as the best performer states in developing startup ecosystem for the budding entrepreneurs. Kerala, Maharashtra, Odisha and Telangana have been categorized as top performers. This as per the results of the third edition of Ranking of States on Support to Startup Ecosystems announced by Union Minister Piyush Goyal on Monday. The Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, that's the DPIIT, conducted the exercise with the key objective to promote India's vision of competitive and cooperative federalism. So a total of 24 states and 7 union territories participated in this exercise, and they were ranked under 5 categories: best performers, top performers, leaders, aspiring leaders, and emerging startup ecosystems. What are these assessments based on? How has the startup ecosystem strengthened in states? Also, as India becomes one of the leading startup nations globally, what needs to be done for robust growth of entrepreneurship in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities of the country? These are some of the aspects we will be discussing on the course of the program today with eminent panelists who are joining us on the program virtually. So let me first introduce them to you. It is my pleasure to welcome on Sansad TV Mr. M. Nagarajan, Executive Director, iHub and Commissioner, Higher Education, Gujarat. Thank you, Mr. Nagarajan, for your time. Also pleased to welcome Mr. Yashas Karanam, Director and CEO, Bellatrix Aerospace, Bengaluru, and Ms. Nikita Maheshwari, co-founder, Tatkal Lorry. Thank you to both of you for joining us on Sansad TV. Mr. Nagarajan, allow me to begin the program today with you. So Gujarat emerges as the top performer for the third consecutive time. Help us and our viewers understand what is it that the state has been doing to, maintain this mega star position for the third time in a row.
Thank you. It's great to be here to get this honor for our state government. It's a very motivating factor for all the stakeholders of this entire ecosystem. What differentiates Gujarat, I would say, is that there are multiple departments which are owning up this startup theme. Starting with Industries Department, which is having its startup policy. We have IT, Science and Technology Department having a policy for IT-based startups. And the Education Department is having a specialized policy for student startups, and which is promoting startups from all sectors of the students right from their college. So an aspiring entrepreneur can start his innovation and entrepreneurship journey right from his day one in college. And not only that, this policy has been in force for last 5 years. And recently it has been revamped to make it more diversified and inclusive and more open. Last time we had supported alumni up to 5 years. Now, any youth up to 35 years of age can aspire to be a startup. We do funding for ideas, POC support, prototype support, and then seed grant. And we are having different schemes which converge with each other. And the startup can slowly graduate from one stage to the other. And finally, they can move into the venture funding ecosystem. So this connectivity between education, industry, technology, and the ecosystem of industry associations, co-creation and collaboration, I think is giving the strength and the presence of all colleges and universities through which any youth from any taluka, even including tribal and interior areas, can work on their ideas. So supporting the local youth to find solutions for local problems using an entrepreneurial mindset, that is transforming the Gujarat ecosystem, and it is poised to create more job creators in the coming future also.
Okay. So, Mr. Karanam, I'll come to you because Karnataka too has emerged as the top performer along with Gujarat. Mr. Nagarajan has spelled out how, a lot of inclusive and holistic policies of the state have transformed the startup ecosystem in Gujarat. What is it that is propelling Karnataka's startup ecosystem to strengthen day by day?
So I think firstly, thanks for calling me over here. And then regarding Karnataka, I think we have been in the ecosystem and we have been a supported company since 2015. We started Bellatrix in the year 2015 and it's about 7 years. From that time, what I've seen constantly with the department that is promoting this, I think Department of IT, BT, which is now renamed into KITS, that's the different new department. I think overall in the last few years, I think the way they are functioning and the way they are looking at it is they're trying to identify new spaces which are emerging they themselves are trying to create challenges, create new state policies. For the first time, I think they have done few things where no other state had initially started a policy. They brought in certain policies, then they created a certain funding structure, and they made it very easy for companies to kind of apply and go through, get scrutinized. It's not that everybody is going to get the taxpayers' money for free. I think they've created that kind of a model. And this is something I saw from my own eyes when there was nothing till this was created. And even today, what I see, irrespective of whichever government comes to power, this body has been functioning consistently, and their efforts and their outputs have kind of continued on. So that I strongly believe is that consistency effort is what I strongly believe is secret for maybe Karnataka's success, and also in terms of identifying those areas and giving the right kind of support. And also, I think everybody in the government is very accessible for us. Despite us being a very small startup, if I write a mail or call back, I think I get a very urgent response. They reach out to us on certain initiatives, push us to get involved in few things. I think that proactiveness is the thing.
So a whole lot of policies, reforms that have been recognized also in the startup rankings, Ms. Maheshwari. But as a woman entrepreneur, how do you look at states now actually promoting women entrepreneurship?
Hi, thank you for inviting me over. So I've been one of the very few lucky people who got a chance to experience it from being a student till being a growth stage startup. So initially, when I started my journey in 2015, I failed my first organization. I started my second organization, which is currently that we are running. It's called Tatkal Lorry Private Limited. Back then, I was a student. So the beauty of the Gujarat system is that they have, formed a very dripping method. There are nodal agencies, which are these universities itself, who pick and choose these startups, or even students who wants to start their own startup. So from supporting them from basic research funding to supporting them till their seed growth and till the time they come to a growth stage. Now, being a woman startup, I got this benefit where I was not only supported as a woman, but as a student, I was supported. I was helped to get interacted with the best of the best in the logistics field. When I reached a certain stage, I was given the due appreciation by the government. I was in, the Minister of State, Srimati Vibhavri Dave, invited us over at her home, interacted with us. And then after all of this, there was also a token of appreciation in form of coffee table books. So not only in form of just monetary benefits, but not only in mentoring, it has gone ahead, the ecosystem has gone ahead and supported us in format of appreciation and pushing us through. And we as well become mentors, which helps us percolate down to the new startups, new kids. There is no age bar. I have seen 18-year-old kids who are in their first year coming up with such beautiful startups, and they are being constantly supported by the government. So in the last 6 years journey, I've seen not only my organization grow with the ecosystem, but also Gujarat as a state has come ahead and helped us out at every stage, from ideation to seed to growth, until today help us meet VCs, interact with them, how we can improve our revenue systems and everything. Every small bit, I have had the government supporting me.
Absolutely. So I think it is this supportive platform that's been applauded year after year, Mr. Nagarajan. But, as one state which has maintained its top position, one of the purpose of the state rankings is also, apart from fostering a competitive spirit among states, is to share best practices. Now, as a state that has been the top performer for 3 consecutive rankings, how are you helping the other states, strengthen their startup ecosystem as well? And particularly, the cities, because if we are to grow into the largest startup ecosystem in the world, it is necessary to focus on the tier 2 and tier 3 cities across India.
It is not just like we are going to share what we have known. We also learn from other ecosystems. Every state has its uniqueness to promote and also support this startup ecosystem, and we have to play on our strengths. What we have done is we have collaborated with many national level organizations and other incubators across India for running joint programs, to do joint visits and also learn from each other's policies. Some of the states have done in certain aspects of supporting the ecosystem, say in terms of procurement policy or some other things where we feel that, we could take lessons from others also. And certainly we are very agile in taking all those things into practice. What sets Gujarat little bit apart is that the ecosystem is aligned to give a clear pathway for mind to market journey of the individual. From the idea that starts in his mind to reaching the product to the market, there is a clear pathway. After that, he goes into different schemes, in different departments also. But for the startup, it is a clear-cut journey because the ecosystem is interconnected and there is an interplay. Other important aspect is the inclusive aspect, where even a student from a very, very interior village or very, hard to reach area, he can approach any of these nodal institutions and grantee institutions to support his idea. So it is not only for the students, but even nearby people also can be supported up to the age of 35 years. So these kind of opening up of entry points into the various schemes helps someone to tap this opportunity of entrepreneurship. More than that, we have created a base of, the startup thinking and the approach to startup as a mainstream thought process in our academia. For example, during the Corona period when everyone was locked down, we conducted online IP training with DPIIT, CPAM, National Research Development Corporation, and other eminent law firms from across India. 5,600 teachers were taught on IP for 70 hours and they were certified with proper exams. Now we have at least 2 to 3 faculty in any government, grantee or even private institution who is knowing about patent creation, IP creation and all that, and protection, which is very, very important for driving innovation. And after innovation comes the creation of the venture. There we are facilitating through various programs and mentorships. All the Chamber of Commerce, they are aligned with our startup ecosystem. The traditional industrial entrepreneurs are now supporting the new startups. So now we are sourcing problem statements from the industries, from the Chamber of Commerce. So local industries are able to provide a platform for the local youth to innovate for them. So this open innovation model is also promoting the strength of the startup ecosystem, and the entrepreneur feels more supported. And this is happening in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. For example, as I said, we have some point of presence for a startup ecosystem institution in every taluka. There are 252 talukas in Gujarat, and in every taluka there is a presence. This includes even nagarpalikas and corporation areas. So with smart city incubators also we are all collaborated. There are joint programs running, joint activities always happening. There is a big movement of people all the time constantly happening in online mode and offline mode. So this vibrant interaction and community is helping make people connect with others and tap into opportunities. Now we are poised to move from funding ideas and products to POCs, to creating startups, to getting them venture funded and get their model and product validated in the real market. So in a way, we can say that we are moving from grant capital based startup ecosystem to making the startups graduate into the risk capital based venture capital ecosystem. So now all angel and seed investors of this country are looking at Gujarat as the next emerging spot to source more viable and sustainable startups.
Certainly, and hopefully all of these efforts, all of these best practices, if adopted by several other states, will lead India to become one of the largest ecosystems across the world. Currently, we stand at the 3rd position, and towards that, achieving that ambition, coming to you, Mr. Karanam, and because you're a new age startup, there is no doubt that over the last 6 to 7 years, there's been tremendous collaboration. There have been multiple schemes, multiple efforts towards, rewriting India's innovation story. But there are several roadblocks that startups continue to face. As someone who's been in this field, and particularly as someone that belongs to this clutch of new age startups, tell us about some of the challenges that you face and that you want states, also the country, to overcome if we are to realize our ambition of becoming the largest ecosystem.
That's a long topic to talk about. So I think the way I look at it, right, there are things that the companies and individuals, founders have to look at it, and there are several things that the nations, the states have to look at it as their independent targets. So I think both of them have to come hand in hand for this dream to become a reality. So what goes into making a startup and coming a certain amount of way, like say you start from your idea, go to POC state, get your initial funding, seed funding, and then you demonstrate few parameters, then get a bigger VC funding. You start to grow, right? Until then, it is, I would say, the journey is tough for most of them, but the journey just gets steeper after you hit this point of having the proof of concept. From there, to kind of make up your mark, keep a company stable, I think your overheads increases and all that. So the scaling challenge is where I think everybody must look at, and that is where I think ideology wise we are a little different from what you can see abroad. So in terms of uh, the way we look at work, the way we go out and organize ourselves in a workplace, I think there, in terms of perspective, in terms of thought, it's more of a thought leadership issue. It's more of a commitment towards order and little walking away from chaos that we are usually used to. So I think at both the levels, if we look at that, I think we would get into a better stage if all founders are committed that their companies are going to follow practices that the foreign companies are doing, do exactly like that. Given our potential and our skills, I think we can do wonders. And from a government perspective, we have to look at it like how probably China saw the manufacturing boom, and today they control the world in terms of manufacturing. If China is under lockdown, I think the entire world is seeing the effect of that, right? So that way, I think we have to look at ourselves. Probably governments have to look at kind of creating a factory for startups or creating a factory for companies. There are different stages. You start from idea stage. There are a certain set of ecosystems that go and help idea stage companies. Then you graduate into a different level. You get into a different set of mentors or different set of support infrastructure that would help you get connected with funding and all that. So this should happen so seamlessly that companies like going into school and graduating from classes, you just graduate in stages and help you grow. Beyond that, whether you win or not, it depends on the founder. That, of course, is always there.
Absolutely. Mentorship is very important. And perhaps, looking at that aspect, the Union Minister Piyush Goyal also announced the Mentorship Advisory Assistance Resilience and Growth Portal, which is called the MARC portal. So hopefully it will bring about some changes and some positive changes for the budding entrepreneurs as well. Ms. Maheshwari, as a woman entrepreneur, I'm sure the journey for you wouldn't have been easy as well. But from the startup's point of view, even though we are, getting better by the day, what is that one change that you would want states as well as the government to, help make the procedure seamless for the budding entrepreneurs, for those who are new to the industry? And the fact that, regulatory compliances is one aspect where the startups face a lot of, hassles. So can that be one area where we can look towards simplifying things?
So yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, it's sad, but it's the truth. As a woman entrepreneur, you face that bit more trouble than, our counterparts, male counterparts. So what I would honestly suggest, what I would want government to come ahead and do it, I would want them to spread awareness about how skillful women are and how they can actually be supported ahead. Them being supported not only helps us in generating better format of workforce. Like in my organization, I try and keep at least 50% of women as workforce because they bring in the discipline. However, that would come only once we bring awareness on societal levels. That can be done seamlessly by government only. Apart from that, I think it is also very eminent to educate women about the financial independence and finances management as well, which honestly lacks across because we are considered as daughters and something that we will not have to manage in the long term. If that awareness, education is brought in to the system on school levels itself, I think it would bring about a lot of change for women entrepreneurs. If I would have been given that education at a very young age, I think I would have not made so many mistakes that I made, which would ultimately help VCs also trusting women entrepreneurs more when we go for the growth stage startups. Last but not the least, I think what really if the state governments and the national government can come together is in form of helping startup research centers, which will allow masters of those particular field to guide new startups as to how they should conduct research about a particular problem that the startup thinks is a problem. A lot of time, it is very difficult to figure out the market product fit. And if there are research centers which specifically help startups dive into those particular research and that particular problem, it would be a great help to across all the states, I think. And I think startups in those fields would love to come ahead and help. Like, particularly if you'd ask me, I would love to help about logistics. And if something like that comes ahead, yeah, I'd join that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think Mr. Nagarajan, let me take one final comment from you. You know, the Prime Minister's vision is to make startups the backbone of Indian economy. For that, of course, we have to keep in mind that there are several states which still fall in the aspiring, states category, in the emerging startup ecosystems, where the innovation journey has just begun. So for this dream to be realized, and we hope that that dream is realized as soon as possible, what are the kind of efforts that we need to rigorously put in the next few years to, make this dream into a reality?
Yeah, so 2047 will be a startup nation. That is what our Honorable Prime Minister has given the vision. And we are also aspiring to be a $5 trillion economy. Here, we have every state should work to realize its potential. And many times we should not get carried away by what the startup definition is generally being, discussed. In fact, I sometimes feel that we should have an Indian model of startup, because a lot of our problems may not be at unicorn scale, but they are still problems that our society needs to be solved, and our youth can get opportunities on that. So if you look at it, if we are able to motivate and support 10% of a batch or a cohort of students every year to become job creators, I'm sure they will be able to create such kind of ventures that can engage the other 90% of their cohort in economic activities, which will certainly help us in achieving or realizing our demographic dividend advantage. Skilling is a very major challenge, and especially now the realization about startup as an industry where you can look for jobs, that has been now achieved in the last 2-3 years. So working for startup is an interesting way to start your career. So that is there now. From the governance perspective, what we can see is that the student startup is something that is very promising. And we have seen that the student may fail in first 2 or 3 even startups, but their cost of failure is very low when they are in college, and the kind of experience they gain and the confidence they will get will make them a better entrepreneur, and their next venture could probably be more successful than what has been so far. So this kind of a sandbox environment with the support of teachers in the college itself, and building an entrepreneurial mindset and utilizing the college and the educational ecosystem will set the base. See, when we are talking about startups and unicorns, somewhere this idea has to start. Everyone is looking at a proven startup which is there in the market with, say, 1 crore, 2 crore turnover. But to reach that stage, there is a lot of startups that has to be in the pipeline. So there is a lot of ideas that needs to be worked. So the government or the public money should go towards funding the ideas. Everyone in the industry will fund the startup, but who will fund the ideas which will eventually come to the startup stage? That is where the student startup policy has a very important role. Not just it is lowering the age of entrepreneurship, say from 22 years to 17 years. It is providing an environment. It is providing a ecosystem of teachers and the people who are specialized in supporting and enabling this startup ecosystem. So this is very important. Second is funding. Funding means not the money. It is more about support. And for a young startup, all money is not equal. A money from a mentor who is in the industry, a money from an industry who is in the same value chain is more valuable than the same money from a purely investor perspective. So creating that kind of a network through networking with Chamber of Commerce, And throwing out their MSME innovation is still something that we have not even touched the base of it. It is having high potential to transform our country. So those states which are yet to create these kind of an ecosystem can probably scale up their vibrancy of startup ecosystem by taking these kind of proven models and then taking it into the traditional ecosystem. So,
absolutely,
and
these ideas can
point,
find direction in the unventured territory. So that is a very important aspect that you've pointed out, and funding, of course, remains a vital area of concern. Time is running out. With that, I'll have to wind up the discussion. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program today, sharing your thoughts, your views with us and our viewers. Absolute pleasure to have all three of you on Sansad TV. So that's it from us, our viewers, on this edition of Perspective today. Thank you very much for your time as well. We'll see you same time tomorrow now with another topic and a brand new set of panelists. Until then, take care of yourselves and keep watching Sansad TV.